There's a twisted truth lurking beneath the surface of modern dating that few men ever dare to acknowledge. It's this: women are drawn, often obsessively, to men who radiate a quiet chaos. Not because they consciously seek pain, but because their emotional radar is wired to chase intensity, not peace. A man with broken edges, one who bleeds from wounds he never shows, creates a kind of gravity that pulls her in. His cold detachment, his unpredictable moods, his moments of explosive silence, all of it lights up her subconscious in a way that stable, kind, well-rounded men never could. Because emotional chaos for her feels like home. Not because it's healthy, but because it feels like love. That broken man becomes her project, her puzzle, her purpose. She doesn't fall for his light, she falls for the work it'll take to pull him out of the darkness. The healthy man, the one with balanced habits, emotional stability, and mature communication. He often gets overlooked or categorized as boring. Why? Because there's nothing to fix, nothing to emotionally invest in, no drama to decode, no emotional roller coaster to ride. He offers peace, but peace doesn't give her the adrenaline spike that chaos does. It doesn't make her feel alive. But give her a man who shuts down without warning, who drinks to numb, who vanishes for days only to return, like nothing happened, and suddenly her nurturing instinct is set ablaze. Not because she wants to be hurt, but because deep down she's equated love with effort. And the more she has to try, the more convinced she becomes that the love must be real. So she clings, chases, and bleeds herself dry for a man who's too broken to even notice she's hurting. Here's what men need to understand. Negative behaviors in a man don't repel women the way logic tells us they should. On the contrary, they often pull her in deeper. A man who is moody, unavailable, inconsistent, or emotionally wounded activates the part of her brain that thrives on unpredictability. It gives her something to solve. And in solving it, she believes she'll win, not just his affection, but his healing. That becomes her mission. And that mission gives her a sense of meaning she never gets with a man who already knows who he is. The broken man provides an emotional puzzle. The whole man provides no mystery. And so many women, unknowingly, fall in love not with the man, but with the potential of who he might become. She invests in his pain, hoping to be the woman who turns it into gold. But pain isn't a project, and that illusion costs her dearly. There's a tragic brilliance in the way broken men are idolized in modern love. Society paints them as deep, mysterious, or darkly romantic. Think of every tortured artist, bad boy, or emotionally unavailable character women swoon over in movies. What is it that draws them in? It's not stability, it's the emotional high of trying to be the one who gets through to him, to crack the code, to reach the unreachable. It gives her an emotional superiority, a sense that she's special, that out of all the women in his past, she'll be the one to fix what they couldn't. But this is not love, it's ego wearing a mask. She's not in love with him, she's in love with her idea of who she'll become if she wins his affection. And that's why it hurts so deeply when he doesn't change. Because she wasn't just fighting for love, she was fighting for validation. So what happens to the good man? The one who's kind, present, and ready to offer genuine love? He gets ghosted, sidelined, or told you're too nice. Not because he lacks value, but because he doesn't create that emotional chaos that she's been conditioned to believe is love. His presence feels safe, but safety can feel boring to someone who's addicted to the thrill of instability. She'll say she wants a good man, but when he shows up, she's emotionally numb, because he doesn't trigger the storm inside her that she's come to associate with romance. The good man represents peace, but to a woman who equates drama with desire, peace feels like an absence of emotion. It feels like a void, and until she heals, until she understands that true love is rooted in calm, not chaos, she'll keep returning to the pain. And worse, she'll keep thinking it's passion. Let's get brutally honest. When a woman sees a man who's distant, emotionally fractured, or casually cruel, she doesn't immediately run. She leans in, not because she lacks self-respect, but because her psychology has been rewired by years of exposure to trauma disguised as love. Somewhere along the line, maybe from a father who was hard to please, or a first love who played mind games, she learned that chasing pain was chasing affection. So when she meets a man who bleeds without showing it, who holds back just enough to make her question her worth, she feels that old spark ignite, not in a healthy way, but in a familiar one. That familiarity is comforting, even when it's destructive, and so she makes excuses. He's just busy, he needs space, or he's been through a lot. And with every excuse, she goes deeper, until she's drowning in someone else's wounds. The most dangerous part? She doesn't even realize she's losing herself. She believes she's loving hard, being loyal, standing by her man. But what she's really doing is sacrificing her peace for a fantasy. She thinks that if she loves him enough, he'll change. That if she shows him what real love looks like, he'll finally become whole. But broken men don't heal because of a woman's love. They heal because they choose to. And until that choice is made, her love becomes a currency he doesn't even know he's spending. He'll take her warmth, her devotion, her softness, and give her coldness in return. Not maliciously, but because he's emotionally unavailable. He doesn't want to be saved. He wants to be left alone. And the more she tries to pull him out of his darkness, the more he resents her for shining a light on it. Now, here's the cruel irony. The moment he senses she's fully emotionally invested, he often withdraws. Why? Because for the broken man, deep connection feels like exposure. Her love becomes a mirror, and mirrors reveal what he doesn't want to face. So he sabotages, he ghosts, he cheats, he lies. Not necessarily because he's evil, but because he's drowning in his own unresolved pain. And yet she stays. Why? Because by then, her sense of worth has become entangled with fixing him. She doesn't just want him to love her, she needs him to need her. It becomes a cycle of trauma bonding. She's the caretaker, he's the wounded rebel, and every time he disappears and comes back, it resets the emotional chaos. She calls it passion, but it's just pain repackaged as romantic intensity, and it's why so many women confuse suffering with significance. What the broken man gives her is emotional movement. He gives her highs and lows, and in those lows, she feels like a martyr. In the highs, a savior. But a healthy man? He gives her consistency, and consistency doesn't produce dopamine in the same way. It doesn't make her heart race with anxiety or fill her head with what-ifs. It doesn't keep her guessing, and for many women, guessing equals investment. If she has to think about where she stands, she tries harder. If she's unsure how he feels, she gives more. It's backward, it's illogical, but it's also very real. Women aren't drawn to suffering consciously. It's a psychological glitch, a survival instinct that's been twisted by media, upbringing, and unresolved trauma. She loves the broken man, not because he's better, but because she's still broken too. And two broken people, as much as they hurt each other, feel familiar. This is why so many relationships fall apart when the man finally heals. The moment he gets therapy, finds peace, and steps into his power, the woman who once clung to him starts to feel disconnected, because now there's nothing left to fix. And if fixing him was the foundation of her love, then peace becomes a threat. She doesn't know how to love him as he is, only as a project, so she withdraws, finds new chaos, repeats the cycle. It's heartbreaking, but it explains why being a good man isn't enough. You must be a man who understands the emotional games, the psychological traps, the silent wars playing out beneath the surface of love. You must know that some women love pain more than peace, because pain gives them purpose, and if you offer them wholeness before they're ready for it, they'll walk away. Not because you're too broken, but because you're not broken enough. She might say she wants a man who opens up, who shares his soul, who treats her like a queen, but watch what she responds to. It's rarely the man who's emotionally available, honest, and transparent. It's the one who's unpredictable, who leaves her messages on read, who gives her just enough to keep her coming back, but never enough to feel safe. This inconsistency triggers a primal response in her, a kind of emotional slot machine. She keeps pulling the lever, hoping the next spin will bring a jackpot of affection. And when it does, when he finally gives her that rare compliment or moment of vulnerability, it hits like a drug. And like any addict, she confuses the high with love, not realizing the damage the lows are doing to her spirit. She tells her friends he's just complicated, but the truth is, he's emotionally unavailable, and she's addicted to the chase, not the man. The man with negative behaviors, withdrawal, sarcasm, aloofness, often gets labeled as mysterious, but what he really is emotionally protected. He's learned not to let anyone get too close. And while that might frustrate her, it also intrigues her. because somewhere deep inside she believes she can be the one to break down his walls. It becomes a game. If she can just be patient enough, loving enough, soft enough, maybe he'll open up just for her. And if he does, even a little, she feels special, like she's won a prize no other woman could. What she doesn't see is that her validation now depends on his wounds. She's not chasing love, she's chasing significance. The more he resists, the harder she tries, and the more he pushes away, the more emotionally dependent she becomes. It's not mutual affection, it's emotional gambling, and the house always wins. Women don't do this because they're weak. They do it because they've been conditioned to romanticize suffering. The stories they've been told, the movies, the books, the songs, all teach them that the best kind of love is the one that requires endurance. That if she hurts through it, the ending will be beautiful. But love isn't supposed to be an endurance test. It's supposed to be calm, present, reciprocal. And yet, that kind of love often bores her, not because she's shallow, but because peace feels unfamiliar. When she meets a man who doesn't trigger her anxiety, who doesn't manipulate her into confusion, who doesn't leave her guessing, she doesn't trust it. She says, "It feels too easy," or "I'm not sure there's chemistry." That's not a lack of chemistry, it's a lack of trauma. But until she heals, she won't call that love. She'll call it boring. So where does that leave the man who actually is stable, emotionally grounded, and whole? Ironically, he becomes the one overlooked. He gets friend-zoned. He hears, "You're such a great guy," and he watches as she runs back to men who mistreat her, confuse her, or make her cry. It's maddening, but it also proves the point. Many women aren't drawn to what's good for them. They're drawn to what's familiar, what mirrors their own unhealed parts. If you as a man show up emotionally balanced and unshaken, she may not know what to do with you, because you're not giving her the chaos she's come to equate with passion. You're giving her calm. And calm only feels like love when she's ready to receive it. Until then, she'll keep choosing fire over foundation, sparks over stability, drama over depth. What's the takeaway here? Don't break yourself to fit into her trauma template. Don't adopt negative behaviors to get attention or create false attraction. You don't need to become a manipulative man to win her over, but you do need to understand the psychology at play. Understand that women often mistake emotional chaos for emotional depth. That many of them confuse suffering with sincerity, and most importantly, realize that you as a man must protect your emotional energy like a king guards his kingdom. Don't pour yourself into someone who only responds to dysfunction. Don't bleed for someone who only wants you wounded. The goal isn't to become bad so she'll chase you. The goal is to become so whole that her attraction can no longer depend on your brokenness. If she can't love you in peace, let her chase pain elsewhere. There's something dangerously intoxicating about the fixer fantasy. Women often fall for the idea of becoming the emotional savior, the healer of a broken man. They want to be the one who finally unlocks his heart, tames his chaos, and makes him better. And that fantasy is what keeps them stuck in loops of self-destruction. Because no matter how much effort she puts in, a man who hasn't healed himself will always pull her into his storm. He'll offer glimpses of change, moments of vulnerability, just enough to keep her emotionally invested. But it's a trap, because the second she tries to hold him accountable, he retreats. And she mistakes this retreat for depth. She thinks he's just scared, or he's never had someone like me before. But in truth, he's emotionally unavailable by choice, and she's fallen in love with a project, not a person. A man with negative behaviors doesn't have to say much. His silence becomes a canvas for her imagination. She projects her own desires onto him. She fills in the blanks with fantasies of who he could be. She tells herself stories like, "He's just misunderstood," or "He's never been loved properly." She builds a version of him in her mind that doesn't exist in reality. And this imagined version becomes her emotional drug. Every time he pulls away, she clings harder. Every time he disrespects her, she makes excuses. Her ego convinces her that if she can win over this broken man, it will prove her worth. She's not addicted to the man, she's addicted to what winning him would symbolize. And in doing so, she becomes a prisoner of her own delusion. She's not in a relationship. She's in a psychological experiment. She's doomed to fail. The truth is, women are often more emotionally aroused by the potential of a man than the man himself. The guy who's always working on himself, always about to change, always almost treating her right, that guy gets more of her emotional investment than the man who's already stable. It's twisted, but it's real. Because when she's with a broken man, she has a mission. Her identity becomes wrapped up in healing him. She feels needed. She feels important. But with a man who is already whole, there's no mission to complete. There's no struggle to overcome. And without that emotional friction, many women feel lost. They say, it's just not exciting. That's not because the man lacks substance, it's because peace doesn't feed her need to feel like a savior. But love isn't about saving someone, it's about seeing them as they are, without needing them to be a project. If you're a man who's ever wondered why your kindness, consistency, and emotional maturity didn't create attraction, this is your answer. You were offering what she said she wanted, not what she was psychologically conditioned to crave. And that's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to recognize that not every woman is capable of receiving healthy love. Some women will run from your peace because they haven't made peace with themselves. And if you try to shrink yourself down to match their chaos, you'll lose yourself. You'll find yourself in a relationship where you're constantly trying to prove your worth, to get her to notice the value you bring, to be her emotional punching bag just to keep her attention. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. And no matter how deeply you care, self-abandonment never wins in the long run. You need to understand something powerful. Your wholeness is not a liability, it's a filter. It filters out the women who are addicted to chaos. It exposes those who only know how to bond through drama. It protects you from being chosen for your pain instead of your presence. And yes, it might make the dating pool seem smaller. You might feel overlooked, but the women who are repelled by your calm are not your loss. They are dodged bullets. Because a man who is whole, emotionally intelligent, and grounded is not for everyone. He is for the woman who has done the work. The woman who can recognize calm as sexy, who sees peace as passion, who doesn't need to rescue or be rescued to feel love. That woman will crave your presence, not your brokenness. And when she finds you, you'll finally realize why none of the chaos ever worked. A man who walks in truth, who sets boundaries, and doesn't need to be fixed. He disrupts a pattern. He's not there to fill a void or be part of someone's emotional rehabilitation project. And that alone can intimidate those who are used to dysfunction. Some women don't know how to receive steady love because it doesn't match the emotional rhythm they're addicted to. They've been raised on turbulence, on ghosting, on high highs and crashing lows. The man who doesn't yell, who doesn't disappear, who simply listens and responds from a place of depth, it feels alien. And rather than grow into that kind of love, many women reject it, not because it's wrong, but because it requires them to grow. It requires vulnerability. And being vulnerable with a good man is often harder for a woman than chasing the approval of a toxic one. That's why she keeps running back to the guy who doesn't call, the one who barely texts, the one who sleeps around and lies. It makes no rational sense, yet it's emotionally familiar. Every time he hurts her, she feels a stronger pull to fix him. Every time he betrays her, she doubles down on her efforts to win him back. It's not about love, it's about the trauma loop. And unless she does the deep inner work, unless she recognizes that she's addicted to proving her worth through pain, she'll keep falling for men who bring her chaos wrapped in charm. The men who don't even try to be better, the ones who give her a little, just enough to keep her stuck. And she'll walk right past a good man, standing quietly in peace, thinking he's boring, when in truth, he's the only one who could give her the love she actually needs. So what should the grounded, high-value man do? You hold the line. You do not become broken just to be appealing. You do not fake toxicity to spark attraction. That's a betrayal of your essence. Instead, you stay rooted in your presence. You let your boundaries be known, and you watch. You observe who leans in and who fades away. The women who are aligned with growth will stay. They will lean toward your calm, your consistency, your wholeness. The others, they will seek the chaos they haven't yet healed from. Let them. Do not chase. Do not convince. Do not water yourself down to become more digestible for those who are not ready. Your brokenness is not a prerequisite for intimacy. Peace is not something to apologize for. It's your power, and the right woman will be drawn to it like gravity. If you're reading this and you've been hurt because your love was overlooked in favor of someone toxic, breathe. It wasn't about you. It never was. It was about what she needed to learn. and how far she still had to go in her journey. Some women only recognize the value of a good man once they've been destroyed by bad ones. Some never see it at all. But that doesn't make your love any less powerful. It doesn't make your goodness any less attractive. It just means that you're ahead of the curve, and that's a lonely place to be sometimes. But stay there. The world needs more men who don't mistake pain for love, who don't need to be toxic to be desired, who lead with depth, not deception. And trust your peace is rare. It's your strength. And when the right woman sees it, she'll value it more than any chaos she's ever known. So here's the final truth. Women may chase broken men, but they stay with healed ones. The obsession might begin with chaos, but it ends in longing for stability. And you, the grounded man, are the embodiment of everything she didn't know she needed until life humbled her. Don't dim your light because it shines too steadily. Don't trade your peace for attention. Let others play the games. Let them entertain dysfunction. You walk the path of clarity, of purpose, of quiet power. And when she's ready, truly ready, she won't just desire you, she'll honor you. Because the man who refuses to be broken for love is the only man truly worth loving.